Well, hello there. You're watching Offbeat Business TV and listening to OBBM Radio Dallas. I'm Susan Hamilton, your host, and I'm talking with Dale Vick today,
Hi, Susan.
One of the fine Blue Dragon International consultants.
You're listening to the Offbeat Business Show, rebuilding American business influence locally, nationally, and abroad, bringing you experienced insight for a strong, influential brand and successful life in business. Here's your host, Susan Hamilton.
As we've been carrying on these interviews to expose you to the Developing a Bulletproof Heart and a Bulletproof Mind conference over in Fort Worth on August 30th and 31st. So important to empower our first responders with everything they need to react quickly and subdue situations wisely, and also to recover faster, because we're realizing that that's not happening the way that it should. Dale, tell us a little bit about your history and some of the things you're bringing to the table as a Blue Dragon International consultant.
Well, thank you, Susan. It's great to be here. And I used to be a Wichita police officer in Wichita, Kansas. My brother, who's actually the co-founder of BDIC, we went through rookie class together.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was interesting because right after rookie class in December 24th, I remember, in 1978, they gave us a car, a full tank of gas, a gun, and a radio, and told us we were professionals and told us to go out and look for trouble.
Huh.
And I was so scared, you know, and I went and parked my police car somewhere, just kind of waiting for that first call. And so we have those experiences. Before that, I was a Navy SEAL in Class 75 for 4 years active and 4 years active reserve. And we're a really tight group of brotherhood of men. And since then, I used to sell airplanes. I'm a pilot. Flew airplanes with Beech Aircraft and Raytheon all over Central and South America. Got a master's degree, and then we were missionaries for a while in Latin America, speak Spanish fluently. And we came back to Dallas, been here since '98, love it, got to Texas as fast as I could.
Oh, you know, me too. Me too. I love it here, no doubt about it.
And as a result, in the last 10 years, I just became a commander, which is a 05, a lieutenant colonel in the Army, commander in the Texas State Guard as a chaplain. So I've actually gone from mercenary to missionary.
Okay.
And there's a lot of help that the soldiers, that the first responders, that the police officers need with regards to PTSD. You know, I think Mark Jones had mentioned that they come back off of Afghanistan or in the military and they become police officers, and they carry those things with them. And as a chaplain, it's just so critical to be able to meet them where they are, hear their stories, and be able to help them and give them hope that there is hope beyond today or tomorrow, your problems, and the community wants to help. And that's what all of the BDIC, these conferences, are meant to be, to strengthen them and to help them in any way possible.
I love that, and I love the angle that you're taking. You want to make sure the community is aware of their role in doing this as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a team game.
Yeah, it is a team game. I mean, when you get a call, we live on a street in Dallas where you know, there's always the fire trucks and the fire engines, the ambulances that come by, and the police. And when there's a call, you know, you always get the police car, the ambulance, and the fire truck, and they're a community.
Right.
And these are the first responders, and we see things that are not good and fun to see. And when we get home, you know, sometimes it's hard to get those images out of your mind, and you wonder why, and you have these problems. And I think Paul had mentioned earlier in an earlier interview with you that, you know, they have the problems with the drugs and the prescription drugs and the alcohol and the pornography and the just the stress and the anger, because you try to treat the community well and they treat you bad, and then you want to take it out on something, and so you come home and you know, kick the dog or do whatever.
Well, those things, those stresses and pressures are huge in the local family business community. That's something that we had identified early on before Offbeat Business Media even came into being. So we recognize that there too. Well, of course it's going to be that much greater with people that are seeing that all the time. One of the things that I thought about Mark Jones' interview, he had mentioned how many warrants that they're serving, and I was doing the math in my mind. Geez, that's over 3 a day that you're going in and you're seeing these on a these things on a regular basis, and like you said, you can't unsee them.
And these officers are going there. They don't have any beef. You know, they're just doing what they're told to do to present the warrant, and a lot of times bad things happen.
Well, we can do a better job, and I'm excited about the approach you're taking to help people understand that there's different roles in the community and how we can start protecting each other when we're paying closer attention and we're responding faster, especially those that are carrying the guns.
Right. Right. And many times the community, they can help by, calling and helping when they see things, especially in the school shootings, when they hear things, when they see things on social media, when there is a question about somebody that is, because there's really no way to totally protect like the schools. They're having the school shootings now. I mean, people can just walk into, with guns somewhere, anywhere. But if the friends in the community come around and say, we've heard this, we've seen this. There's been many times that that they've been able to avoid a very bad situation because the community has helped.
That's true, but I really, you said something earlier when we were off camera that I thought was pretty doggone interesting when you described what happened when your grandchild was born. That there was an immediate lockdown, there was immediate response set up in the hospital, and I thought when you've got this many people together talking about solutions, because that's what I love about what you're doing here. Your approach is solutions oriented.
Solutions.
Those things have to be talked about. And so describe a little bit of your experience, because I think it's pretty eye-opening.
Everyone is wondering how you can help with a school with a shooting or whatever. And so last week we had our 7th grandchild with
congratulations.
Thank you, with Maddie and Andrian, and over at one of the hospitals over in Bedford. And as you know, they put a bracelet around the baby that is a protective bracelet, and the hospital has these electronic doors and the electronic signal that if you cross a certain line that you can't see, the doors in the whole hospital will shut closed. And so where you are, you're going to be there until some administrator pushes the button to open the door. And so if those type of mechanisms were in a school, and yes, we understand that if the bad guy, the shooter, is in the room and they got the door closed, then they're like, fish in a fishbowl. We understand that. But there's other things that I saw on Facebook the other day where there's a protective like an igloo, bulletproof thing where all the children can get in there. So there's various solutions, but the fact is that we're talking about it and trying to figure out some sort of solution and help the first responders in some way to think beyond, just the normal things of how we do things. And so that's what this training is really about, in bringing just class instructors and people with experience to say, hey, what about this idea? And by the way, this is a community and we can help you, and we love you, and there's hope, and we appreciate what you do. I was a Navy veteran from Vietnam, and when we came back, I didn't serve in Vietnam, but when they came back, they weren't recognized. They weren't, and for a long time, we didn't go to the VFW because it was just World War II, and we weren't appreciated. We weren't, and so that kind of gets you down. And when the police officers are all the time, not getting the support they need, and then they have the problems at home, it's tough. It's tough, and we need to give them hope. And this conference is what's going to do that.
It's a wonderful way to love forward.
Let's love forward.
Get out there and make a difference with them. That's huge. I didn't realize that Vietnam was part of your background as well. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your service. It's very, very valuable. One of the things that I enjoy so much about talking to these gentlemen is the amount of history we're talking about here. You guys didn't wake up one day and go, you know what, I think I'm going to do this. You've got some serious history, and one of the things that was really impressed upon me early on when we started talking last year was that you're seeing some levels of training and expertise being exercised on the very top levels in things that are going on right now that we're not doing with our first responders, and that's the type of training you're bringing to the table here. You're going to show them some of those things that are working, that are already being used.
Yeah, and so we're asking that not only the police officers, law enforcement, first responders, EMS, but also for a while I was security at our church,
yes.
in a large church downtown Dallas, and there's the security folks in the churches that need to come to this training as well as the community, and we want everybody to come and bring your wives and just see that we can do this together.
You know, I was talking with a teacher earlier, and I was sharing with her some of these things, and she said, you know what, we all just got together last night talking about this. This is a hot button issue. School's just now out, and we got this period of time over the summer to get prepared and get ready for the next things, and everyone wants to know, what are we going to do? How are we going to solve these problems?
Yeah, but the people need to feel as well in the community that they're safe, because when they you know, we don't want to rat out every single person that you think it might be crazy, but at the same time, you know, when you see things and when you hear things, you need to report them. And so with the social media so prevalent today, and I think Mark was also mentioning something else about the fact that when problems happen to the first responders, the police officers especially, or in the military as well, they don't have anybody to come to. I know as a chaplain in the Texas State Guard, we can hold a confidence and we don't have to tell their commanding officer different things. But if the officer, the FBI, the CIA, those type of folks, they can't share things because if they do, then they want to send them to a psychiatrist, and if they send them to a psychiatrist, then they think they might be crazy, then they take their gun away, which is their livelihood, or their position away, and then it goes, and so they just clam up. And our conference is made to say, what can you do about that? How can we help you?
That's huge. We don't need to be clamming up and isolating. One of the things that I recognized early on when you're looking at mental health of any site, that isolation, that's from the enemy. He wants to break that down. He wants to make sure those communications aren't happening. You saw a handful of things as a chaplain, so you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's you know, as a chaplain, I was able to talk 4 people out of suicide within the last 2 or 3 years with guns in their hands, and you just have to, you know, give them hope, and you've got to talk to them, and there is hope. And a lot of the suicides that we see, there's over 22 a day with veterans, and a lot of them you can prevent if you can intervene soon enough and fast enough. So.
Well, that's true, and I'm grateful that you know how to do it. You've had some success in it. We need to hear those stories. Absolutely. Friends, we're going to take a break and listen to a few of our sponsors, and when we get back, we're going to talk more with Dale Vick. You're watching Offbeat Business TV and listening to OBBM Radio Dallas.
The American business economy is positioned as it has never been before. Professional videography is a core element for attracting a higher level of engagement with the people group you need for significant impact. Now is your time to shine. My name is Bill Brock, owner of White Rock Films, and I invite you to a powerful opportunity in the marketplace, an opportunity to draw excited people to your events, an opportunity to showcase your ideas on infrastructure, an opportunity to become known as the industry authority and enjoy the associated benefits of a strong, influential brand. Video highlights, video teaches. Video puts a resistant market at ease, and video stirs the hearts and imaginations of your allies and strategic client base. White Rock Films offers full audio, video production for businesses ready to embrace the future, handling your project with professionalism, experience, and polish unheard of in the industry. My name is Bill Brock, and White Rock Films wants your business. See us online at whiterockfilms.com.
Experience the Zeal difference.
It's my favorite beverage.
I never thought nutrition could taste so good.
I know it's why I feel the best I've ever felt.
Wouldn't start my day without this beverage.
Every once in a while, a product comes along that's so innovative, it has the ability to shake up how we feel about nutrition. You're about to be introduced to a one-of-a-kind nutritional powerhouse. It's scientifically formulated and backed by a landmark clinical trial. This wellness product has created a movement that has already generated over $300 million in sales. It continues to change lives, create a thirst in people to be healthier, and is inspiring generations in ways other beverages simply do not. It's called Zeal, and thousands of people worldwide, just like you, appreciate that it takes the guesswork out of nutrition and why it's loved by so many. If you don't experience the Zeal difference in 30 days, we'll refund your money. Join us in this movement and experience the Zeal difference.
And we're back. You're watching Offbeat Business TV and listening to OBBM Radio Dallas. I'm your host, Susan Hamilton, and I'm talking with Dale Vick today, one of the consultants with Blue Dragon International Consultants, holding this wonderful conference to help our first responders with wonderful support that they need, called Developing a Bulletproof Heart and a Bulletproof Mind. This is all about faster response when we've got active killer situations in our churches, in our schools, in our communities. But it's also about faster recovery, because these guys are seeing things that is not really being talked about on traditional media. A lot of people just don't understand when they have a braced attitude about an officer or an officer's what might be perceived as a knee-jerk reaction isn't at all. It's the expression of the things that they've gone through. And it's time that we do a better job, Dale.
Yeah. When I was a police officer, I had a beat area in Wichita, Kansas. They called me Baker 1, and in that area was the hospital, Wesley Hospital. And so anytime that there was a suicide, a homicide, a child abuse situation or whatever, I was called to be there in the emergency room and see. And one of the saddest stories I think that I had was watching this one, it was an Asian family, and she'd brought her baby in, and the doctor was, looking at the baby. It had bruises everywhere, and then they started to see some puncture wounds on the back of the baby and on the leg. And so we got the address of where she stayed, which was with her grandmother, and we went to her house, and we looked around to see what we could see that would cause that, and we found a stick with some rusty nails in the stick. And that's apparently what her boyfriend was using when the baby would cry. And it's just those type of things. I mean, you just want to, in your heart, you want to strangle the guy. You want to go out and you want to find him and you want to get some street justice. And as a law enforcement officer, you have to abide by the laws and the rules. And so what this conference is trying to teach you is that we have to restrain ourselves from our emotions, and we have to go by what the law says. And there is a justice system, like with our partner Mark Jones, that has tried these things before and let the law work its way. But those type of things is where it's really hard to you see that and you bring it home and you think about it and you dream about it and different other things. And so how can we help in those situations to get them to the next day and to go home with your honor, and to go home, to see your families and to play ball and to go to the, to the church and go to the baseball games and go to the school plays, because they have a life too. And I think that a lot of times, they think that, these men and women, that are in uniform, they're tough cookies. Well, they're just human, just like, you and I are.
Right.
And they have emotions. And again, sometimes when there's veteran police officers or veteran officers on the street, sometimes you become calloused to those things too. And that's where, as a chaplain would come in and say, oh, calm it down, slow it down, it's, a situation where you have to treat that person that just committed a heinous crime with dignity and respect.
I think it's so interesting that the panel of Blue Dragon International Consultants has two that I'm aware of that have chaplaincy in their background. I mean, how strong is that when we're talking about bringing that heart component in, bringing that healing component in, you've actually seen and witnessed some of those things. You said that your shift might be from 2 to 11. And I think about that when you were telling that story. You take that to bed and you can't sleep. Your day is all, if you never experience
That's why we're
that.
so excited that if the families could come, if the wives of these first responders could come, so that they can hear the stories that when an officer, when a firefighter, when they come home. I would come home, well, my shift ended at 11, but I didn't get home at 11 because then I had to write all the reports, and that took an hour and a half, or 2 hours. And then you get home and you're all wound up, and you know, family's sleeping, or the wife wants you to come to bed, or maybe she's, you know, stayed up for you. And they need to understand that sometimes you need that little alone time, a little decompression time. And just the understanding, because we appreciate our families, we appreciate the love that our husbands, wives have, and our children for us and doing what we feel like God has called us to do. It's a calling to be in a first responder, a police officer, a firefighter. We really feel it's a calling. And
you have to be prepared for anything.
Yes.
Because you do not know what you're going to, what's on the other side of the door. You don't understand, you don't know what's on the inside of the car. And I think you're dealing with today in our culture, the drugs that are out there, you really just don't know, and the human trafficking. There are some things that are going on right underneath your nose, right underneath our nose, folks, that if we do not engage our officers and engage their families and do a better job here, it's going to take the community pulling together to solve these problems.
I mean, these people are altruistic, which means that, what you saw at 9/11, when everybody is running out, they're running in. There's just something inside of us that want to get in the fight. When there's something bad happening, we're going towards the bad thing so we can protect the ones around us.
Yes.
It's just altruistic, and that is, you know, just kind of almost in the DNA, and it's just part of who they are, and so that needs to be appreciated and affirmed. So
I think it's exciting that we can.
Yeah.
Doesn't that just, I know that warms your heart, because we've had several conversations about it. The idea that we could help somebody who's gone through some things that might have some question marks, right? Inside their own mind. Geez, I'm having trouble communicating with my family. I'm realizing that I'm starting to second guess some of the decisions that I'm making. Are there any questions that you can think of that an officer might be asking themselves to say, you know, come to this conference, I think you can get some support here for that?
Yeah. I think sometimes the officer, I mean, they'll have, like in the PTSD, it's like, why did I make it? I mean, why did my friend die and I didn't? Or if I'd only done this, you know, he would have lived, or you know, and they start to doubt themselves and they have second guesses. And so that's what this conference is about. It's the lineup that they have are men that have been there. They've been in the field. They've looked down the barrel of a gun. They've been in the fight. They've been shot. They've been knifed. And what did they do, and how did they do it, and how did they survive? And so just hearing their stories is going to encourage you and maybe give you some tips so that you can make it through the next day.
I think that's exciting. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things you're going to be covering specifically? You got 2 days.
Yeah.
You got 2 days. You got Lieutenant David Grossman. You got Richard Morris, Sergeant Richard Morris.
We got you know, our special counsel, Mark Jones, is going to talk from the legal standpoint. Paul Vick is going to tell some stories with the FBI and his situations and how they've worked their situation. Lieutenant Colonel, you know, Jim Frawley, retired Marine, and also flies for American Airlines and things. And so it's you know, just the stories that they're going to have. He's going to actually speak about the ISIS threat and about the MS-13, and you know, the border. You know, should we close the border, and what is our threat level that we have here, and what is ISIS coming over here to the United States, and are they infiltrating the United States and our schools and our system, and what can we do to protect ourselves so that we can be in the land of the free and the home of the brave? Because you know, freedom isn't free. It costs a price. If you look at the Arlington Cemetery and you see all those,
Yes.
you know, gravestones, it came with a price. And we live in the greatest country this world has ever seen, and we have freedom. And if you've got a job and a car and a house, I mean, you're part of the 5% most wealthy in the world, and we need to appreciate that and thank the officers for that freedom that we have. So. We're also privileged to have Tom Ziegler and Ziegler Blue, and his father was amazing, and his son is even more amazing, and so this lineup of that we have is just phenomenal.
It's just a wonderful time, and friends, if you own a business and you can afford to get out there and support an officer, I can't encourage you enough. It is so important to know that you can get a ticket for an officer for 2 days for $99 to have access to this information.
And also they're going to get 16 hours of TCLOS credit. And that's so much important. I mean, for 2 days, you're going to get a phenomenal training. I think an officer is $99, and the general public, if we do it before July 31st, is $169. And the 16 hours of TCLOS training, they all need that every year. And so this is going to qualify for them to do that.
Excellent. It's a win-win, can you tell? You need to get out there and you need to show up, community, because you're about to learn some things that you need to know for a healthy community. Make sure your schools know about it, make sure your churches know about it, make sure your police departments know about it, your firefighters know about it. Let's fill up this room and get near this brilliant panel of consultants that can share some of the things that they've learned and some of the things they've gone through and help our communities heal. Thank you so much for your time today, Dale. I appreciate you so much. Friends, you can find this information and get your tickets at bdic.net. You'll find all that information accompanying this video on Offbeat Business TV and accompanying the audio on Offbeat Business Network podcast. Until next time, you've been watching Offbeat Business TV and listening to OBBM Radio Dallas.
You've been listening to the Offbeat Business Show. Find our lineup, podcast, magazine, event calendar, and sponsor information, even our membership directory, all available on the Offbeat Business app or at offbeatbusiness.com. Download the Offbeat Business app today.
Take this for me.